Hello Lana, welcome to MwalimuPLUS live classes. Remember, this is the platform where we give you the key to unlocking your potential. This is also the platform where we break down information into small bits that you can be able to understand. My name is Peter Muguche. Welcome to Class 7 Mathematics. Now, previously, we had been talking about money. And I remember we talked about simple interest. And this actually had taken us all the way to a question that I left you to do or to attempt and see if you could be able to tell what you had covered. And here is the question. Mogusu deposited 50,000 shillings in a financial institution that offered 14% interest per annum. I wanted you to understand this term, per annum. Remember, per annum means every year. So this 14% as interest was offered every year. So he withdrew interest after 3.5 years. That's another very important thing that you need to take into consideration. The time this money lasts in that bank, or the time this money can last in somebody's hand before he gives it to the bank. Now, the question here is, how much was the interest? Now, it's all about the interest, nothing else. So the next thing that we are supposed to do is actually to find the order in which these items come. So number one, check the amount of money that was saved into this financial institution. It is 50,000 shillings. Then immediately you check the rate at which this money was earning interest. Of course, we've said 14% per annum. Then the time, very important, 3 key things. The time. Period here is 3.5 years. Now, the next thing is actually to look for the formula or bring the formula that links these 3 into place. So here we go. The formula for finding simple interest is actually simple interest equals to principal times rate out of 100, then you multiply by the time given. So replace now the amounts, the time, and the rate into the letters. And you'll have now 50,000 shillings replacing principal, which is actually the money that was put into the account. Then you multiply by 14%, that is 14 out of 100. Then you multiply by the period of time, 3.5 years. Then from there, you are only left with cancellation of what you have in the numerator versus what you have in the denominator. So go for the zeros first, then deal with them. So the 2 zeros in 100 will cancel with the 2 zeros in 50,000 shillings to leave you with 500. Then remember, the 3.5 years was converted into an improper fraction, which now becomes easier for us to simplify. So 3.5 should be written as 7 out of 2. This is not something very new. It is something that you already understand. Therefore, 7 out of 2 will give us now that 2 in the denominator, which will cancel into the 14 to give us 7. Now, that leaves us with 500 times 2 times 7, and that will give us a total amount of 24,500 shillings. And what was this? This was the simple interest that was earned in this institution. Up to that point, I think now we have covered fully what we were supposed to cover in simple interest. Now, I want to introduce you to yet another new subtopic, and this is still under money, but on hire purchase. Now, when we go through hire purchase, what do we need to understand? As part of our introduction, actually, there are terms that are used in hire purchase, and it's important for you to understand them. Number one, hire purchase itself. Then number two, deposit. If you are not using the word deposit, you're using the term down payment. Then, third in place is actually monthly installments. Then, the number of months. Like simple interest, these terms are also very, very important, which is why I need just to touch on each of them. Then from there, you'll be able to know how to go about it. So I want to start. First of all, hire purchase. Hire purchase is actually the amount of money one pays in terms of installments. As you buy you buy items like now the bed you are seeing there, then you realize that you may not have that amount of money at the same time. So what you do, you simply pay slowly by slowly over time. You see, I've brought all these terms together. So I've said hire purchase is the total amount that you are going to get after you pay little by little. And the little amount you start with is actually the down payment, or what we've called that deposit that you put there to begin the purchase of that item. Then I've talked about the period of time that you are going to pay. And this one here is actually calculated on monthly basis. And that is why it's called monthly installments. Now, over a period of how long? For how long are you going to pay these installments? Say, for example, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, could be more than 1 year. But it's important if we express them in form of months. Then I think that's almost enough for you to get now the idea of how we are going to calculate the hire purchase. But then these items that you buy on hire purchase come actually in varied forms. Sometimes you buy beds, sometimes you buy things like sewing machines. Those items that you cannot buy once instantly with instant cash. What you need to pay for slowly. Then other things include cupboards, and then from there, I think many and many more items like what you have in your homes, that are including fridges, TV sets. The list is very, very long. So now, what formula do we use in calculating hire purchase? So you are going to discover that the formula will actually come from those terms that I explained at the beginning. You remember the terms? They included things like deposit, which we also called down payment. They also include things like monthly installments and of course the number of months. So the formula for hire purchase is therefore deposit plus total monthly installments. When I talk about total monthly installments, what I mean is that is the total amount that you are going to get when you take what each installment looks like, then you multiply by the subsequent months that are stated in the question. In that way, when you put that one together, it will give you hire purchase. Now, moving on, those terms, that is T for total then M for monthly, and of course I for installments are going to be commonly used in your working, because we shall not be writing the full words, we shall be writing the initials. So T for the total, then I, that is M for monthly, and I for installments. So when you see this, don't get worried. They actually stand for the total monthly installments. Moving on. Now, I have taken you through what we actually do when we are looking for hire purchase. Now, I want us to use the ideas we have gathered in hire purchase. Then from there, we see if we can solve at least one question. And here is a question that is in sample form. Just the first question, a sample question for you. Mary bought a second-hand car. Second-hand cars are actually assumed to be cheaper. So let's see if it was that cheap. And you can compare that one with the new car. So Mary bought a second-hand car on hire purchase terms. In other words, she was to pay for this car in installments, slowly, without paying the whole amount that is required. Then, first of all, she paid a deposit of 200,000 shillings. Quite some good amount of money. You need to scratch your head before you get the 200,000 shillings. Then, he paid this in 4 equal monthly installments. In other words, in 4 months. Then, each installment, she was supposed to pay 25,000 shillings. Now, question. What was the hire purchase price of the car? How much was the hire purchase price? Just to help you with your vision, because observation is power. Look at the diagram you have there. It has, I think, 2 ladies. One should be Mary, and the other one should be the buyer of the car. They are trying to do that transaction, that buying and selling. Now, here we go. The solution will be, first of all, what are some of the things that we collect from the question? The deposit that was paid, 200,000 shillings. The period in which she was to pay for the car, 4 months. Now, each installment is actually 25,000 shillings. Put all these together in that one formula, and this is what you're going to get. First of all, formula being deposit plus total monthly installments. Deposit should be replaced by 200,000 shillings, since this was our down payment, first amount of money. Then the installments will now be put there, and then you multiply by the number of months. That is 4 months multiplied by each installment. That is 4 times 25,000 shillings. Very quickly, if you look at the 4 months multiplied by 25,000 shillings, that gives you a quick calculation of 4 times 25. And what is that? That's about 100. Actually 100. Then you bring in those 2 zeros. I'm just giving you a shortcut to getting the multiplication of big numbers. So that's 100,000 shillings. That is the total monthly installment. Now bring in the deposit, which will now be 200,000. Put together will actually give us 300,000 shillings. So sure, it was cheap, because a car does not cost 300,000 shillings unless it is a second-hand car. Very good. Now, moving on, I want us to look at another question, but this one here, I would expect that you participate more than I'll do, because you've now gained enough information and, of course, confidence. Now, the question is, the marked price of a modern laptop was 120,000 shillings. Ruth bought it on hire purchase by paying a deposit of 70,000 shillings first, and then that followed 5 monthly installments, and each installment was 15,000 shillings. Now, how much more than the market price did she pay? This question needs some little bit of attention, because having calculated, having known what the hire purchase is likely to be, that does not mean the end of the road. Again, you have to come back and look at the market price. Just to remind you, market price is that amount of money that is usually written on an item. Anytime you walk into a shop and then you find tags, price tags stuck on an item, that should be the market price. And the seller of that item intends just to show you how much, so that he or she gives room for negotiation, for a downsizing of the price, or allows you to pay in installments. So let's see what we were supposed to do. So that laptop looks like what you're seeing there. The market price is 120,000. Now let's work out the hire purchase. So terms of payment. Market price, first of all, is 120,000 shillings. Then the deposit that one is expected to pay here is 70,000 shillings. Each installment is 15,000 shillings, and this is done in 5 months. Now, the formula for calculating hire purchase. We've already looked at that, but this time round we are only going to replace the letters with what we have is the amounts. 70,000 shillings is our deposit. Total monthly installments will be 15,000 shillings multiplied by 5 months. That gives you a quick calculation of 75,000 shillings. Now bring this and add it to the deposit that was put there at the beginning. And how much is that? If your guess is as good as mine, that gives you about 145,000 shillings. Is that the end of the road? No. Actually, that is the hire purchase price. But remember, it was marked 120,000 shillings. What is that? The laptop. So let's find the difference, because we want to see how much more did we pay than the market price. And remember, when you are buying on hire purchase terms, you usually pay more than what is given, than somebody who is paying in cash. So the difference will be simply taking 145,000 shillings, then you subtract 120,000 shillings. And that difference is what was paid as more, and that is 25,000 shillings. Now, my learner, I have taken you through hire purchase. I have shown you some of the terms that are very important to take into consideration. That includes hire purchase itself. That also includes down payments, also called deposits. That also includes monthly installments, and of course the number of months. I've also given you the formula that brings this together. And with that, I feel I should not bring this lesson to an end without leaving you at least an activity for you to carry out. And here is, I think, 2 or 3 activities that I want you to carry out while you are away from school. Ask your parents if they have ever bought items on hire purchase terms. Then once you ask them that, you go ahead and ask them to give you their experiences while they were doing this, while they were buying items on hire purchase. That is activity 1. Then activity 2, I would want you to look around the house, and then you identify an item or 2 or many that were bought on hire purchase. Then, assuming that one of them was bought by paying a deposit of 6,000 shillings, then and also 6 monthly installments, and each was 1,300 shillings, then can you try to work out the hire purchase? Those 2 activities, I think, are very good to give you some experience on hire purchase. And with those very many remarks, I just want to bring this lesson to an end and wish to see you in the next lesson. As for now, it is bye-bye.